Are you a beginner editor or are you literally just getting into editing now? This, guys, is the video course, the only tutorial you will need to master editing as a beginner, right? Everything you need to know is going to be in this video. You don't have to pay any other money to go anywhere else. All you have to do is just watch this video. I'm going to teach you so much. I'm going to teach you about how to use an editing program, why you're editing the way you're editing, how you can have shortcuts, how you can speed up your workflow, etc. So many things, how to grade on a more beginner's level. All of these things, right? There's courses online that you can go pay. But in this course, you ain't got to pay anything. You can watch it all for free and enjoy sort of the process and know that you are capable of now editing on a pretty good level, okay? I will be making more in the future, more advanced things. But for now, this is literally your all-inclusive beginner's guide to video editing. Now I'm gonna do mine on Premiere Pro, because that's the one I'm best at. But honestly, you can work on Da Vinci Code if you want. You can work on did I say Da Vinci Code? You can work on DaVinci Resolve if you want, and you can work on Final Cut Pro X. You just need to find where all these tools are that I'm going to show you on those programs. So it's not a biggie. It is easier, obviously a bit easier if you are working off Premiere Pro, but if you're not, don't worry, you can still do it all. You can still understand editing by following me on Premiere Pro. And of course, I will be doing more courses more aligned to Final Cut Pro and DaVinci Resolve in the future. But for now, your all super awesome video editing beginners course is going to be on Premiere Pro. Right, so let me just bring up let's just bring up Premiere Pro. So as you can see here, would have booted up Premiere Pro, or you've booted up one of the other programs, but for me it's going to be this. So what you need to do is you need to press on New Project on the top left here, and what you got to do is press Browse as well, because that will make it easier for you. And then just find I'm going to go to my YouTube work that I've got. And I am going to save it in edits. Select there, and I'm going to select. Now call it whatever you want. So I'm going to call it video 2. Video test 1, let's say. And create, and then you are going to get this, which really allows you to go through a tutorial and learn Premiere Pro like that. But you don't need to do that. Press edit, and now suddenly you're on your main sort of editing workflow window in Premiere Pro. So what you can do now is, if I go to YouTube work myself and I get my footage, I can drag it in. There you go. So wherever your basically your video files are, you got to go find that and drag the folder into Premiere Pro. Now, if you have things like ARRI or red code footage, sometimes you have to do something else to get them in there. And what you got to do is you got to go to Media Browser and actually find the location through here and import the files like that. But on most occasions, most things ever, all you need to do is drag and drop your folder where your footage is and then go from there. And for example, if you have music as well, right, you can chuck in your music folder, sound effects, whatever it might be. You're chucking it in there, and then you're making sure that you're kind of staying on top of everything, right? So make sure you have these folders. And by the way, in editing terms, folders are called bins when you're editing, yeah? So I have a footage bin, I have a music bin, and I have a sound effects bin. Now, what you want to do is you want to start a new timeline. to be able to edit your footage. So all you got to do in Premiere Pro is right click and say new item, new sequence. Now I'm in the UK. So in the UK, we actually do 25 frames per second normally, or we do 50 frames per second. In America, you're doing 30 frames, you're doing 60 frames, or you're doing 24 frames even. And if you're a filmmaker in general, it might be that you want to make your film in 24 frames anyways, because that was the traditional frame rates that films were edited in, right? So, but for this example, I'm going to actually do 30 frames or 29.97. That's similar. Pretty much. It is pretty much 30 frames. Because my camera is set to 30 frames for now, and that's how I want it to be, because I want this to have a sort of bigger outreach. So we're going to do test editing 1. You're going to call that whatever you want. It might be you call it event highlights for an event. It might be you're doing a bar mitzvah. It might be you're doing a promo video for a client. It might be, I don't know, Ferrari. So you're going to name it Ferrari promo video 1. Whatever title you want, you give it. And then you press OK. And suddenly you have your timeline here, right? So I've removed myself for a second so you can see everything. So here, what's going to happen is, and what I'm going to very quickly do is I'm going to just check. Let's see what we got here. A lot of things. Lux Maxim with clavicular. Interesting. Okay, so I'll tell you why I did that in a second. So, and in fact, let's bring this video into here as well. Keep existing settings. There you go. So now you can see you've got 2 monitors, and if you want, once you start becoming a more effective video editor, you can be editing off of 2 screens. But for now, I'm going to show you 2 actual screens is what I'm trying to say. So I'm doing it off of 1 screen, but you've got 2 smaller screens within the editing software, okay? So as you can see here, we've got 2 screens. Why is that? Well, one screen on the left is your preview. So this one here on the left, this here, that is your preview screen. So you can have any footage you have, even photos. Look, you double click here, you're previewing what you might be using, right? So there you go. And then on the right, you have your timeline screen. So whatever's in your timeline, that is what you are going to be, that's what you're going to be viewing. Okay? So that is a good start for you there, and I'm going to bring myself back into this. Okay, so now you can see me again. You're at this stage now, right? You have your footage, your bins, and keep it as neat as you can. In fact, that, if I go undo, you can actually start a new bin and call it chapters. Right, and then bam. Okay, so always keep neat. And if you want to keep even neater, you can do things like call that 1, call that 2, right? Chapters, footage, etc., right? And go by name. So then it's kind of keeping it very... Okay, so there you go. Up to you how you want to organize that down the line. But this is a beginner's course, right? So that's not as important for this bit, I guess. But being neat and tidy as a video editor, very, very highly recommended. So you can stay organized and on top of things as best as you can. So where do we go from here, right? So what is editing about? Obviously, editing is used for you to create new videos and to be able to cut up maybe multiple shots or add in different shots that you have from different video clips. You might have 20, 50, 100 video clips that you want to put into one video to create one project out of it, right? So that's what video editing is about. So you need to learn some of the very important tools in how you're able to do that. So keep in mind, different software has different things for this, but the first thing you need to know is the razor tool, right? So if you press C in Premiere Pro, you get this cutting looking tool in the timeline, right? And that's your razor. Now, if I come into the timeline, you can press the plus and minus buttons, by the way, to zoom in and zoom out of your timelines, right? And you can also use this to make it bigger there and bigger there, depending on what you need to do, right? Now, C is the razor tool, and you can come here and go kablam and blam, and then press V, which takes you back to your normal mouse, and suddenly you've got two shots there, right? And Command Z, that is your biggest friend when you're editing. Command Z takes you back a step. So while you're editing, you're never going to be perfect. You're going to be moving fast because you want to do things as quickly but as efficiently as possible. But you might make errors here or there. So Command Z, look, it's gone back to the top as if I didn't even cut it. So C, we cut again. Let's do another cut. Back to V to get your normal mouse. And suddenly I've got 3 shots there, right? So Command Z, boom, all the way. You can press Command Z for up to like, I think 20 or even more, going back 20 steps. So that's quite a lot. So say I went nuts and I did all of this. Look how many things I'm doing here. I did that. I've screwed up the sound there. I'm moving this over here, which is ridiculous. I'm moving that there. I've decided to put some text on top, and then some other text, and then whatever. Look, Command Z, bam, 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 all the way back to the top. Command Z is your best friend. Okay, so you now know that you have this razor tool. That means you can cut the video clip wherever you want. However, you can go plus all the way into 1 frame at a time, which I'm doing here, as you can see. And do you know what? Let's move this a bit more that way, actually. Right. So I've moved into 1 frame at a time. And your razor tool can be used in that way to do that. But then look, you can press V and go to the edges of your new shots and yourself just, you know, decide where you want that video to start from, and then press V, and then back you go, and you've joined to there. So suddenly it's doing that. So if you've got spaces in your work, you can do that, right? Take that out, and then boom, join it into there. Okay. Now we're going to do Command Z again and go back to the top. And you are good to go with that. So what do we have here? Obviously, we've got our timeline that we're looking at. This is where your video file is that you can, this is basically your final decisions. When you export a video from your timeline, how you've left it in the timeline is how it's going to get exported, right? So you've got that there. Over here is just where all your footage and your media is. It's your media window, right? And we've spoken about the 2 monitors already. And you know which file you're on. By the way, you can do other sequences. Sequence 2, you see? And you suddenly got another window there. So you can be working on multiple things for that project at a time, because it might be that they want you to do a highlights video, but then they also want you to do a full presentation, or they want you to do a a speech or something like that. And you need to put all of these longer videos together and then create your highlights. So it might be you've got different sequences going on at a time. Sequences being what your timelines are showing, right? So there you go. Always save, Command S. Elsewhere it might be different. Always save as you go. And sometimes, guys, you also want to save non-destructively. So you can press File, Save As, and save your project as Video Test 1A or 1B. Save it as you go. And also, a lot of these softwares, they have auto-saving functions where you can save every minute, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, every half an hour. You tell it the amount of time that you want it to save in, right? So now we've I hope you've learned quite a bit there in how to get going, obviously. But where do you go next? So, right guys, so I've now brought in another video folder called Video Showreel. So I think the best way for me to explain everything is to create in front of you basically a video showreel so that you yourselves know how to put together a little edit, right? So one of the key things when you're making any videos, usually in terms of highlights, short promo videos, sizzle reels, whatever it is you're doing, you need to decide what music you're going to use, right? So music is key. So if I go into my music folder and I see art list over here, maybe we go for amped. This is a good one. So can you see I've double clicked and it's given me a preview of it. I think for our purposes that's going to be good enough. So I've put that into my timeline. I will lower it to -6 decibels for now, just to kind of, or around that, just to keep it not too loud. Okay, so you can press spacebar, by the way. That's how you play things. You press spacebar and things play through. We have no video clip right now, so we can't play through that. Now, if I go to my video showreel, let's find something. Okay, so this is 1 Canada Square. So this is at Canary Wharf in London. I was doing a little video for a company that rents spaces out there. And he was just going by the window and blah, 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 whatever was going on. And there you can see loads of different things. Now, say, for example, from that, I want to use a small bit of him doing that handshake and us seeing 1 Canada Square. So wherever you want the part you want to use, you can actually do that by bringing the whole thing into the timeline and pressing your razor tool and choosing the bit you want by scrutinizing it. But that's actually going to delay you. What I would do if I were you is, in fact, go into the video file. So press preview for that video file and press I, find the in point you want. So say I want to use from this bit, I pressed I for in. They're shaking and I want to use it. She shows and I want to use it sort of up to there. You press O for your out point. And now if you just take the drag video only, if you press that button, you bring it over, suddenly you've only got that video that you've dragged into your timeline. So suddenly you have got a video clip in there. And say I wanted to be quicker, obviously, I look through this. And with no thought process at all, really. In and out again. In and out again. Whatever. It's not going to be great, but I'm obviously trying to make a point. In and out to that drone shot. In fact, that drone shot, why not? Let's put it at the beginning even. Right? And then I'm not going to show the client for now. And then let's go and see what else. We've got these guys talking a bit.
That you could basically contribute.
Okay. This is a cut, obviously, with no thought process. It's me trying to explain to you. This is
will take effect from
BKL, an accountant's firm that I worked for. So if we now highlight it all and drag it all to the beginning, which you can do, press space, see, it plays through with the music. So obviously there's no creativity there right now. I've just basically, for you to learn, I've cut up a few things and I've chucked them onto the timeline with the music so you can see how quickly you can actually put things together should you want to, right? So if now what we do is we got to bring some order into what we're doing, and I've got to teach you a few more things, right? Now, the first thing, so before I teach you any of the actual theory on how you can cut, right? Cut into the music, to the beat of the music. That's usually a very important thing. How to cut from shot to shot using transitions. First, what I'm going to do is show you a little trick for something. Yeah, if you right click, and in other software like Final Cut or in DaVinci Resolve, then there's other ways to bring this up. But in Premiere Pro, you can right click into the your media folder, and then press adjustment layer and press OK. And suddenly you've got this thing called adjustment layer. Now, for now, I'm just going to chuck that in here. And I'm also going to chuck that into video showreel. But really, you might have another bin that you call video effects, and you might put it in there, right? So suddenly you've got this adjustment layer here, right? So you've got the adjustment layer, and this really is eventually going to come throughout your project. I don't think I'm going to make this 2 minutes and 8 seconds, which is how long the music is. Maybe we'll make one that's about up to here, maybe. And then it can stop suddenly like that. So we can take that off. Also, you don't have to have the adjustment layer on all the way if you don't want for now. You can drag this all the way back and just for us to preview it. So an adjustment layer, this is really awesome what adjustment layers do. You can basically chuck stuff in an adjustment layer that you want to affect for the visual side of things, and it will do it. So say, for example, you want more saturation for all your videos, because by the way, you might end up shooting S-Log, which is very flat, which means you've got to chuck a lot of things to do with helping the color and the exposure go to the right place, right? Or you might want to chuck your LUT in there, right? Your lookup table, your light filter basically. And what it does is it pretty much gives your flat footage something amazing to work off of, but then you've got to edit it yourself to where exactly you want it. This isn't flat footage for now, and I think that will come in a more advanced editing course that I'll do. But if we press onto adjustment layer, and we actually go from the editing workflow window, so you can see up here, guys, you can get all sorts of things. We're going to go into the color window, and suddenly, guys, you can use this workflow window to adjust the exposure, the coloring, and things like that of your video. But an adjustment layer, what's amazing about it is I can say to it, make everything 130% saturation, which I will get into more later. And suddenly your adjustment layer has that. And I might say up the contrast as well. And you know, let's make it a bit more obvious. Let's go 152 for now. I can say to it, up the exposure. I can say all of these things to it, and they are going to affect the shots. So if I go back to my editing window, can you see this is now looking more overexposed? And look, I take off the adjustment layer, bam, it goes back to normal, and that's edited actually to the exposure and the colors that I wanted it to. So I'm actually making it worse with the adjustment layer at the moment. But this can really help you save a lot of time. You don't want to be going into too many individual video clips and adjusting the colors and the exposure like that. You want an adjustment layer on top of your footage, and it helps adjust all of them all at once. So that's what's amazing. It might be you shot on a pretty normal picture profile, an event, and all you need to do is add 120% saturation on everything to just bring a more punchy look to it with the colors, right? So an adjustment layer will help you do that. What else can you add in an adjustment layer? You can add more than one layer. So if I press onto the adjustment layer and I go onto effects control, which is where you can see, so here you can go to effects control, and you're seeing the adjustment layer is almost like a video clip of its own, right? So if you go into effects controls, here, lumetri colors is the color I just added. But the thing is, I can press Command C, which copies, and Command V, and I've pasted another thing on in that same layer. So, and I can keep doing it. Look, can keep doing it. Obviously you're never going to do that, but I'm just telling you, you can have as many layers of things onto there as you want, right? It might be that if I go to color, It might be that you want tint, right? So you get your tint, you chuck it into there. Any effects, by the way, you can find them and either drag and drop them onto the layer or the video clip you want, or you can just press the layer you want, like the adjustment layer, double click tint, and suddenly that has tints on it. So look, it's gone black and white. So you see there's loads of layers you can chuck on top of every file. But the most important thing to understand about the adjustment layers is it's going to help your workflow be faster, and you're able to adjust things throughout your whole timeline very quickly by using an adjustment layer like this. So we're going to leave that as it is for now. Let me see what I've got on there. Wait, let's go Command Z. I think what we'll do for now is just keep it to 120 saturation and everything else where it was. So back to 0. There you go. So now it's looking a bit more normal, right? So now we've got that. So not very interesting, obviously, right now. You need to start thinking how you're going to put your video clips together in a way that's going to look more interesting. So let's do that. You, as a beginner videographer, editor, one of the important things to understand is that you need to edit to the beat of the music. People don't always do this, and you don't always have to do this. There might be edits where you need to prolong some stuff to make it a bit longer for the client. Or it might be some things the client doesn't want it so fast and pacey and punchy to the music. Or it might be you skip a beat and you cut on the next beat, etc. So it doesn't always have to be this way. So if we look at this song, bam, 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 you can hear the beat, bam, yeah, you can hear the beat in the music. So we got to go to that. So if I take this a bit further and I go bam, well, this comes into another shot. But for now, I'll tell you what, we'll use a bit of the last one. So we'll go bam. Here, bam, it was about to come there. Also, if you just use your left and right arrows on the bottom right of your keyboard, you move a frame at a time. So if I keep pressing the right direction, it's going to be going forward, and if I press the left, it's going to be going backward. So that's a way that you can go 1 and 2 frames either side. Now I can hear the beat even if I move a frame at a time. So listen carefully. Did you hear that? It went right. So the beats, you can usually hear them very clearly even if you go frame at a time. So on that's where I've got to cut. So if I bring my other video clip and go on top of that one like that, now suddenly I've got 3 clips that are on beat. Bam, bam, bam. That, you see? You hear it again. Let's bring the next clip. Boom. Boom, there's the other one. Okay? So now I'm cutting to the beat of the music. There was the next one. Can you hear it? Do the frames again. Bam. Okay. So I've just pressed Command S to save. So I've just saved this project up to here now. So I've got an adjustment layer with 120% saturation. I've got a few clips together. If you look at them very carefully, they're all very even in their duration, in how long they look, because I'm cutting to the beat. And when you're cutting to the beat, it's usually a very even, the beats are coming at even durations. So your clips will be usually the same amount of time, going from one to the other, and blah, blah, blah. So let's watch it. Obviously, the first shot kind of cheats a bit because I needed 2 there. But for now, let's just go with it. There you go. Bam. 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 So, that was a little mini crash course within this video on how you can simply... You got enough there to understand how you can quickly put together some things. So from this point on, I'm going to give this beginner's guide a bit more of a further understanding on how it is you cut things and why you're doing what you're doing, right? So when you're cutting to the beat, first of all, you're not only making things neater, but you're actually also kind of editing correctly. There's many different ways that you can cut from shot to shot. And here is some of the more important ones, the traditional ones. So if I go to the last shot here, you can see it is a close-up of this gentleman from the accountancy firm that I filmed for. And if you notice the shot before, it's a wider shot of the 2 of them. So one way that you can cut from shot to shot is actually by going from a wider shot, and they say you should skip a lens. So say your lenses are 24, 35, 50, 80, 100 mil, then you should always skip a lens in order to be able to find a good cutting point. So this here is about a 24 mil that we're starting with. Maybe it was a zoom lens, so maybe it's even around the 30 mil mark of a zoom. Maybe it's 35. And then the next shot is pretty much gone to probably about 80 to 100 mil range. And that creates a good cutting point, a good traditional cutting point. How else could you do this? You know, how can you make this easier without by cheating a bit? So CapCut and editing software like that, they've got loads of video transitions that helps you go from one shot to the other. It makes it look really cool. It makes your life easier. But if you want to be a good editor, you should learn everything properly, right? So, but I'll show you here. You go into the video transitions, and I've got, oops, let's press X there. You go into the video transitions, and I'm just going to choose something at random. Say you go to Film Impact Essentials. It's got dissolves here. It's got this thing called Chaos. Let's use Chaos, right? You can put video transitions in between video files in order to make the magic happen. So if we watch it now, oops, press space. Remember, space is play. See, it went into that. Obviously, for this kind of talky video, for that client, I would have never done that kind of a transition. But let's see on another frame. So if I press into the little transition, press Command C, you copy and you can paste. I put it into there. Command V is paste. Suddenly I've got that in there and it acts in that way. Is that not as nice? Let's find another sillier one, right? It's done that effect. I'm not telling you should use these. I'm now showing you how to use video transitions, right? And they can help you sometimes speed up your work. If I delete this, I can right click in the middle here and I can say apply default transition. Default transition is your normal cross dissolve. Back in the day when things were film, you used to get the 2 strips of film and they would create a little cross dissolve where one film reel would come into the other one and it would create this kind of look. Yeah, you saw that? I can also copy and paste that into here. There you go. You can make it quicker by shortening its length, right? You can make it longer by lengthening, right? So you can see there, right? Not saying that's going to work for my edit, but I'm just showing you what you can do. Also, say this was the ending of the video, you can press apply default on the end and it will cross dissolve into black if that's what you want to do. It might be you're editing a film, so you might want the ending to have a quite a nice long fade to black. So yeah, so there you go. So that's how you can do things like that. And then if you want, I can press onto that, press backspace, you delete things. Backspace, I can delete that shot if I want. Oops, it's gone. But wait, oh, I just made an error. Command Z, you're back in, right? So you can kind of see, oops, I made an error there again. Command Z or Z, you're back into where you started, and that mistake has been undone. Oops, I did that. Oops, I did that. Oh my God, how did that happen? Command Z, Command Z. Back you come, okay? Command Z is your best friend. So make sure that you remember that. It's easy, man. You're going to use Command Z so much, or Command Z, whatever you want to call it. If you're in America, Command Z. You're going to use Command Z so much that it's one of the first things you're going to learn to do very quickly when you're editing, right? And I said to you, backspace deletes things off of your timeline. So I can press the adjustment layer. If I don't want it, backspace deletes. But I don't want to delete, of course. That shot, backspace deletes. Even here, look. Should I not want this video? Should I not want these sound effects? Backspace deletes. Command Z, I get it back. Command Z is your best friend, right? So let's delete these transitions. And we're back to having a more normal on the beat. There you go. So we've got 6 shots here that are on the beat. Right, where do we go next? You need to learn a bit about keyframes, right? And there's keyframes basically allow you to do certain things within your video files or within your sound files. That is pretty cool. For example, you can actually create a cross dissolve at the end of your video by using the last video clip and creating keyframes. So if I extend it once again, so that's roughly where I wanted to start. If you press if you come and you make your video files bigger using the toggle there. So if I make these files bigger, the video files, okay, so anything above the middle line is your video files, anything below the middle line of the timeline is your video file. So if I press command, what you're going to see is you can see the mouse is changing what it looks like. It's allowing you to, if you come here, you can actually lower the opacity of this shot. So look, now it's gone because the opacity is 0. You can't see it. So if you go back to the top, boom, it's actually back to being 100%. If I press command and I press on the line, it adds a keyframe. It's this little dot here. And if I press a keyframe all the way up here and press this, there's another one. And then look, if you take the last one and you make it all the way to the bottom, what's it going to do? It's going to gradually go from one opacity level to the other one because that's what you've asked it to do. There you go, it cross dissolved out. And then suddenly you can do the same with the sound. So roughly matching the same keyframes as the video. So first of all, look, if you just do that, you brought the level of the sound to 0. Now there's suddenly no sound. Command Z, yay! Back to the top we go with the Command Z. You press onto the keyframe there, and you press the keyframe there, and you lower it down, and suddenly, there you go, even the sound can cross dissolve. So say I made these a bit longer, look, you can affect it by doing that, and you bring this all the way to the end. It'll take longer to cross dissolve. Yeah. Right, so if I press Command Z, blah, 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 and I go all the way to the top, it might just be you want a quicker end. So you just do that. It's up to you, really. Or as you become a more advanced editor, you'll learn more, or you can watch some of my videos that are up and coming and learn more. But for now, there you go. I mean, it can be as quick as you want, really. It's up to you and how you're editing. But for now, you know that you can do that. That is what's very important, right? So, there you go. So you now know that you can do that. So what are other important things when you're editing? All this time, I had the magnet on, right? So if you look over here, you can toggle on and off some things, and you can do this on all the other software as well, not just Premiere Pro. So having a magnetic timeline can be important. I'll show you why. So if you don't magnetize things, what it can make your job a bit more harder. So look, I've grabbed this video shot and I'm trying to move it around, and it's not really stopping where I wanted to. So say you're trying to just guess that, okay, I'm guessing that it is, or go about then, it should be fine. You might make an error, obviously, and not put the next clip in the right place. If you toggle on magnet, things just automatically, look, if I bring it close enough, bam, it magnetized and it stayed at the end of that. Very important this. Say the adjustment layer, look, I wanted it to start just at the end of that. Bam, it magnetized there, or it magnetized there, or it magnetized there. The sound, maybe I wanted to start here. See, magnetizes onto that part. Let me bring myself back into this. So you see the magnet being on can be important. Sometimes you'll take the magnet off because it's not as ideal for you in what you're trying to edit. But most of the time I have the magnet on, and it really helps speed up things, because you don't want to be guessing. The magnet is perfectly logically attaching the end of a shot or a sound file to the start of another one, or vice versa, whatever it might be. Yeah, it's perfectly doing it. So you don't want to mess around with that. Yeah, so say the adjustment layer was to start there, bam, it's magnetizing. See, and it tells you where it's magnetizing. You can see it visually. Well, if I take it, toggle it off again, look, it's not showing me anything now. It's telling me the time code of where I am, which is cool, but I don't know where perfectly everything ends and where it starts. So that's why having the magnet on is good. Okay, so here's another thing that you can do. Say you want to affect all of these shots in a certain way, and say my adjustment layer ends there. You can highlight all of these shots, you right click and you nest, and there's ways, and press enter, and there's ways to do this in the other softwares, right? So you can do something like go into effects control, and you can for example zoom into the whole thing by 140%. So now it's gone into every shot 140%. Yeah, so you can see that. So let's make it more obvious. Let's go 200%. You're not going to do this necessarily, but look, see, look how, yeah. So you can do nesting to do things like that. Sometimes you want to do nesting because you maybe want to warp stabilize everything. It's a bit shaky, you want to stabilize it, or you want to put certain shots together and affect only their colors and exposure. It depends, right? So you can do all sorts of things by nesting. So I'm going to press Command Z, just bring myself back to where I was, right? So that's another important thing you can learn, right? So now if you're going to let's learn a few more things. By the way, you can also get some of the stuff that you press on the keyboard for at the side. So for example, the razor is right here. The razor tool is there. So now I have the razor and I can cut whatever I want. Command Z, Command Z. You can do things like ripple edit tools. slip tool. You can do the pen tool, which is what gives you your keyframes, right? And then you press V and you do that. Your normal mouse button is at the top, right? So that's the thing that helps you move things or do quick things like that. So say you did the pen tool again and you did that, then you can go into the normal mouse and you can affect things differently should you wish to. So that is that. Things are down there on this panel. By the way, if you buy, sometimes you might accidentally delete a panel. So all of these things are their panels, right? That monitor's a panel. This is a panel. So if I go here, let me preview this video again. So you've got two things now. So that's a panel, that's a panel, that's a panel, or it's a window if you want. If you accidentally lose these, you can go to, at the top, you can go to window and it says workspaces. So workspaces is like when I went into color, and you can do that. Or if you look at these options here, see, I've got history on, I've got info on, I've got markers on, I've got media browser on, I've got metadata on, I've got text on, I've got tools on, I've got audio meters on, I've got audio clip mixer on. These are all the ones that are actually on there. So if you ever lose one of these, just go into window and find them from here and it will show it again. Yeah. So yeah. What else do we want to be learning, right? So your timeline obviously is here. You can also move through the timeline through your monitor of the timeline there. You can, if you want to see something really up close, you can zoom into your window like that by doing that. And then if you want to go back to your normal view, you just say fit to the window and that's your whole shot as it is. You can press play on here. Right, stop. You can do that and go a frame at a time. You can use that. You can go to out point. If I press that, your out point right now is where the last bit of anything is on the timeline. So that's why you can go into your in point, which is usually the beginning. You can also have in and out points in your, I'm not going to explain how to use those for now. I'll do that in a future video, but you can press in there and then out here, for example, and that's actually now your in and out point. So you're in, bam, it goes to the actual in point that you've set and to the out point there, right? But I will explain what you can use that for in the future. You don't need that now. So you can also have markers and things. So when you're editing to the beat, so we know where our beat is, it's where each one of these lines are. If you want, you can add a marker in your timeline. You can go through a whole song and say you're doing music videos, for example, this can be really important. So you can press M and you suddenly get this green marker here, as you can see. And then you go to the next bit. We know where they are now visually, but if I press M, oops. Sorry, if I press M there again, and I roughly press M here again. So when you're a beginner editor, it might be good for you to go through your whole music track and add these markers, and that will help you to know where your beat is. For me, I'm so used to it now, I can just do it without I can do it without it. But look, see, suddenly I have a visual, oops, why did that move? I have a visual representation of where my beats are, so I know that's where I can cut. But also, what does that help you do? I can kind of see where the halfway point is, right? So I can, right, so you see, that's where that one cut. So down the middle, roughly, I may have wanted to do, I don't know, let's take another video file. I may have wanted to I may have wanted to add that bit of the video, right? So there you go. The middle points. in, it's a out, right? Whatever. Like, I'm just trying to show you, if that isn't fast paced enough for you, what you can do is just cut faster, use more clips and cut in between the beats. Sometimes the beats will be coming faster than this. This is a relatively medium. And even, to be fair, you can hear there. There you go. You can hear another beat there, actually. So you can press M there. Press another M there. Up to you, yeah? So find the beat in the videos and cut to that. And if you see it's not fast paced enough, then in between beats you can cut again, or you can just go by your own kind of timing. You might want to have 10 frames at a time, the cutting. You might want to have 15 frames at a time, 20 frames at a time. It's up to you. But best generally to cut to the beat. And if you want it even faster, then you sort of go between the beat. Try and be as sort of what's the word for it? Try and be as even as you can be, really, when you're doing your cuts, because it's going to show. You don't want you don't want to be cutting to the beat and then you've cut this one-off thing with like a third of a beat, and then it's back to the beat again, and then a third, and then you're like, nah. You, as an editor, you need to find a sort of evenness amongst things. Yeah, you need to be a bit OCD and make sure everything seems even and rounded throughout your edit. Yeah, you might want to add text into your work. So in Premiere Pro, you can press Command T and suddenly you have text there, right? In the others, you might need to add it in another way, but Command T is what tends to do that for you. And say I add here test number 1. You will notice as well that this doesn't really look very great. So if I put test number 1 there, if I highlight it and go into the effects controls and I go into text, I can change fonts if I want, bold, whatever, test number 1. Can see a bit better now, but still not great. You can add a background to it. Suddenly I can see it better. I can also make it bigger. If I go to its scale, right? I can add the shadow instead of a background. Shadow, it just goes around the letters, while a background adds a whole background to the whole thing. It just depends on what kind of thing you need, yeah? So for this, maybe might be better that, right? Look, you've suddenly got text. Obviously, I'm just chucking something in there. It might be you want it in the bottom left, right? Might be you need it there, right? Might be you need it to cross dissolve into your shot. Remember what we said, apply a transition at the beginning. So say I wanted to start like here, right? So that transition in nicely. Might be I want it there, so just move it along, right? Might be I want it to finish here, right? It's gone. It might be I want to cross dissolve into here, right? Etc. It's up to you what you do with things like that. For now, maybe we'll what we'll do is we'll get it back to the beginning, like here. We'll have it disappear. A few other things to know about text. So it might be that you're just simply doing a holiday video that you went with your partner or your family or whatever. Might be you're just adding a title, right? Or whatever it might be, right? There's a few things in effects control you need to be aware of for text. And once again, your effects controls in Final Cut Pro or in DaVinci, you'll probably find it in a very similar way. You just got to look to it. Or after you do my course, which kind of explains a few things, you can watch another course that just tells you how to use another software. Me, I'm kind of mixing it, right? I'm showing you Premiere Pro, but I'm also showing you how to edit, right, as a beginner. So I'm kind of doing both in this one. And as I said, I'll try do a few more specific videos for each software. But for now, you're just getting a more general beginner's guide to editing. So the text, right? So if you go into your window, your text, can you see? This is how you affect your text in this section. But if you want, you can actually go into the, it's a video itself. Every layer is another video clip, really, in essence, and you can manipulate it in similar ways. You can go to where it says video and motion, and you can move it around like by affecting the position, or you can make it bigger or smaller, etc., right? And then why is it moved when it's bigger? Well, it doesn't matter. Just use the positioning to move it back. You can rotate it, you know, make it smaller. I want it to be here, whatever you want, yeah? Play around with all of these things. I'm not going to go through every single thing, but I'm showing you where you can find things and what you can do, right? You can crop it from the left a bit, see? Maybe I just want number 1 now. Cropping really isn't for text. You'd be silly to write a title and then need to crop it, right? You'll just write the title you need. But cropping on a video clip, it might be that you have a layer. You might want to do multi-screen, right? Let me show you a little neat trick here. Say you've got 2 shots, one above the other, and you want to see both as a split screen. You press on the, remember, the top layer is always the one that's going to be shown unless you have turned down the opacity and you're looking through to the one that's under it. So unless the opacity is 0, the layer that is always on top, and look, you can layer more. I can layer that on top and I can layer that on top, right? You got 4 layers on there now. In fact, 5 with the adjustment layer, but you're only going to see this top one here. That's what's going to show. So Command Z, let's just have the 2 for now. Technically 3 because I have the adjustment layer. But adjustment layer is always just the adjustment layer is see-through, right? Other than all of the things you add to affect everything under it. That's why it's called an adjustment layer. You can see through it visually, but anything you add into the adjustment layer, it will affect. So you got these 2 shots here. Should I want a bit of a split screen situation, I move him there. Maybe I want him there and I want to see what's under, right? Or I'll crop. So it says crop in here. Crop left and crop right. So that's really what I want to see of that. And I don't know, move it there if you want, or move it here, whatever it might be. And then you can see the shot under. But those 2 things don't really make sense. I think what would make sense is if we now bring this here and kind of do this. Yeah, that's more of a split screen looking things. So look at your effects controls carefully. Go through everything yourself if you want. Knowledge is power. The more you look into things, the more you'll learn, right? So you can create split screens like that. Up to you. So I'm going to do my Command Z and blah, blah, blah. So text, that's how you do text. You can even affect its color. Look, I can highlight that and fill it instead and be red. Yeah? You can do all sorts of things in the effects controls and under stuff, right? So it's really up to you what you do with all that, but that's how you can add text. So say this was a holiday or whatever, and I'm trying to add the title and I want it down the middle, right? So I'm going to come to my video, my motion. I want it down the middle, or it's I'm showing you Canary Wharf, right? There's the title. Right? Up to you how you want it to come out off. It can suddenly cut to be not there anymore. It can cross dissolve, whatever. So now you know how to put that. Transitions and things like that. I told you, you go into effects and you can chuck any video transitions on top. Dissolves here, cross dissolve, additive dissolve. Look, mess around with things and see what you like, and you can do that. You can even do audio effects, right? And you can even do video effects. So let's go video effects first. For example, I can blur a shot should I want to. So at the beginning here, that happens. I can actually, do you know what? Maybe I can keep that going for a bit, just for now, for example, right? I can throw in a camera blur, and look, the background, suddenly it's at blur 25. I think let's maybe go 8 for now, a bit less, right? So it could be that that's what you want. Yeah, and it might even be that you don't want the background of the text actually. You want more the shadow only. So look, it'll show up. If that's not good enough and you still feel like you can't see the text, lower the opacity of the video file. Look, suddenly I can see the title a lot more now because I've lowered the opacity. Yeah, you can use keyframes to come into the blur or out of it, right? So say it's blurry here, I can go command press. Oh, sorry, what am I doing? No, I've got to go into my camera controls and go under the camera blur. And keyframes can also be added, guys, through pressing these bits here. So if there I want to get out of the blur or soon near that, sorry, let me just check. No. So I want to come out of the blur, say from about here. So I move this keyframe to there, and here I say 0, right? There you go. Bam, bam. Yeah, so there you go. Editing is a fantastic and beautiful creative process, and you can do really technically whatever you want, right? As long as, you know, in some way it sticks to the paradigms, but also just, you know, you're always pushing the paradigms really to how much you can push them, but it's up to you. As a beginner though, you just concentrate on the things that make more sense. Okay, so I think as beginners, I think you've learned enough there on how to do things. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna edit this up to 1 minute, and you're gonna watch me do it. Right, and it's going to be a little sizzle. It's simpler. It's not going to be like an incredibly amazing one, but it's going to be a simple sizzle reel for you to see how I've cut it. And I think up to 1 minute might be a lot. So let's just do, actually. We're going to do up to sort of 30 seconds, I think, and then we're just going to come cross dissolve the sound. Okay, so let's take the text out for now. Actually, I guess we can keep it on. So we'll go the filmers reel. Okay, let's just call it that. And I want it down the middle. So let's see what we got. Okay, we're going to use those keyframes. See, I don't like those cartoons. I think for now, let's leave those out. Can you see how the magnet helps me? Bum. This is by no means what my final showreel would look like, and you can go onto my website, thefilmers.co.uk, and you can see what my showreel looks like at the top of the page there. Right, but I'm cutting to the beat nicely, yeah? So now we can add... Do you know what? Let's bring the music, I think, a bit more forward. Do you know what? Let's in fact move the music just for the purposes of this. Let's move the music to a place that makes sense. So you see, this is where I'm getting creative now. Let's put it here. There you go, right? So now we're kind of going like this. Let's have a look. Still cutting to beat. Okay. So now we can introduce other things. Video showreel. Let's see what we got here. Something like this. Whatever.
For investors to sit tight. Well, we ain't.
See, mistakes can happen. Don't matter how long you've done this for. Maybe I chose to have that for longer. It doesn't matter. Got this guy here. Do you know what? Maybe not for that. There's a little football thing for a charity I did here. You know, put it in. See, there was a little cheat there. He didn't cut on the beat, but then he did by the end of the second or third shot we see here. So let's move this up. There you go. So it still works. Okay. Okay, so let's make it up to 30 seconds. That looks nice. Let's actually put that at the top, I think. The shots are already cut there, so I'm cheating a bit, guys, just for you to get the point of the whole thing. We're at 26 seconds. We just need a bit more of something. Here is another guy from Provide, a big company that does healthcare stuff. Let's see what we got.
We are an incredible organisation.
There's a community thing there. Remember, I'm cutting to the beat. This is a little BTS I shot.
She has a battle.
We've got Ollie and Anthony there, good friends of mine. Maybe we need to see a bit more of that. Look, frame at a time. Frame at a time to find... that's the first point we see Ollie. then use your keyframes, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd put the logo on and everything. So let's look at the whole thing now. There you go. So you see, obviously that's nowhere near where my final showreel would be, and I can actually show you now if I put on top, if we go into sequence 2, I can actually show you what a nicer looking reel would be. Change sequence settings for now. So have a look at what my actual showreel looks like. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. It's this one, it's this one. Here we go. So this is a 2-minute rendition of my showreel. There's shorter ones, but you know, you can see the difference there. You're obviously focusing. It might take a good few hours once you're my expert level to create a showreel and make it look proper good. But yeah, so yeah, obviously it's going to take you a while to master being an editor, and there's guys, honestly, you can learn editing without even paying a penny. Probably you can go to other video creators and editors that have posted tutorials for free. You can check out, you know, more theoretical things on how to edit. I've shown you a more practical approach to it. There's different ways you can cut from shot to shot. I said to you things like skip a lens. Another big theoretical thing is that you change angle. So say you're looking at someone front on, you can change to looking at them from the side or things like that. You can cut to movement, right? So you can cut from maybe someone's running and then they suddenly turn, and on that turn you cut from a wider shot of them running to a closer shot of them, you know. So you need to learn all of these things, and this isn't quite that for you, right? You can cut to the beat, as I showed you. You can do a J cut or an L cut, which means a J cut, the music begins to work in a way where it's going to hit a bam somewhere, a escalate, and on that escalation you can change shot. No matter what it is you're watching, the sound escalating somewhere, it creates a moment where you can cut, because it's like an illusion. You're kind of, the music has distracted the audience and it allows you to cut. And an L cut is the opposite thing. It's the music keeps going, and thanks to the music that it keeps going, you go from one shot to another seemingly a bit more seamlessly. So these are all the things you got to learn, but I showed you here today a kind of beginner's guide to how to start understanding editing, and I'm going to do more kind of intermediate and advanced levels of editing. But there's a lot there for you to have learned. You can, honestly, YouTube, guys, is your free library of education. You can go to different people's YouTube channels and find specific things. You can just find out about keyframes. You can just find out on exposure and coloring, grading as we call it. So you just, whatever specific needs you eventually have, there's probably a video on it. So it's incredible that you can have that. And if you really want to take things seriously, then you got to start thinking about doing, buying courses online where people are really top world-class level people are showing you how to do things. The final thing I'm going to show you guys, and then we're going to cap this off, is just a very brief touch on color grading. So this is where you can affect your shots, right? So if I show you the panel here on the left, right, how I have it, I'm going to just explain to you what everything is. So you've got your white balance, first of all. You can always find this by pressing this, toggling this pen here and finding a white something white in your shot. So here, for example, let's find somewhere where white is obvious. Here, the words are white. So I can go into here and press the whiteness in there, and it's going to adjust these. But the white balance is quite good, so you don't need that for now. It might be that you need your temperature. So you've got your color temperature and you've got your tint. When you're a videographer and you're filming things, you're always looking for your Kelvin, right? So the lower your Kelvin, the colder things look. So let me go somewhere where it's going to be more obvious. Maybe here, right? Maybe not. Let's go here. So the bluer the lower your Kelvin, the bluer something will look. The higher it is, the more yellow it's going to be. And you can adjust all this in the post. Or you can go to your tint and make it more green or make it more red, right? These aren't as obvious in this. Here, I think it's going to be better. I can make this bluer. Look how blue it looks. I can make this yellower. Look how yellow it's gone. I can make it greener with my tint or more red, yeah? You can up the saturation. We've said this before, or lower the if you lower the saturation to 0, you're basically going to get black and white, basically, yeah? And then you can up the contrast and make it look really cool, right? So let's go back to balance. Your exposure is basically your brightness level, right? You just up it and down it. Your contrast is how harsh it's basically strengthening the difference between your shadows and your highlights. So the blacks colors will look even more, and the white colors and things look a bit more punchy. Highlights is basically your highlights and your whites are basically similar, but highlights are more on people even. Can you see the whites are affected there again? And in the whites, look, the whites are affected again. So that's what those do. And your shadows, you up the darker parts of the image, and the blacks, once again, is strengthening the really deep shadows of your shot. And then creatively, so if you've shot flat, you want to create an adjustment layer and find a look on here to chuck. Most people that shoot, say, S-log or flat, C-log, whatever you might call it, depending on the camera you're on, usually people actually go for, in fact, I'm going to find this in the basic. You go input LUT here, Rec 709. If you chuck Rec 709 on flat footage that has been shot properly, obviously, you're going to find, it won't work on this, but it will, but it won't look good. You're going to find that your flat footage suddenly has an anchor point that it looks pretty good, and then you yourself might have to adjust things accordingly from there on, right? So that's where you find your LUTs, or you find them here, right? Look at how many things there is, right? So curves, I won't explain that today. It's not worth it. Color wheels. So there you go. So once again, you can affect your shadows. You can affect your midtones. And you can affect your highlights, right? So what's the difference? What's shadows? Obviously, the darker parts of your image are the shadows. What's your midtones? Midtones usually is where you find skin tones, right? Or the more middle tones of your, that's why they're midtones, of your your shot. And highlights are where the brightest parts are, where it's really white, where it's really bright, right? So that's going to affect those parts. So you can see the yellow, the brightness of where it's really bright is lowering. And the midtones, the skin tones are looking better. Midtones, almost you can even see it as just your normal brightness up and down, to be honest. And the shadows, once again, will up your darker parts or affect them in whatever way. All of this you don't need to know. Basic correction is where you want to start from, guys. Okay, and you can find out more things online. So if you want on YouTube, go to color grading tutorial for beginners, and you will find out everything to do with that, right? So this is only your sort of full-on beginners course that explains to you how you can get going with editing. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed that. I really hope you enjoyed that, guys. My name's Pan Michael. I run a company called The Filmers. And I've been doing this, as I said, for about 15 years now. My company's been running for almost 10 years. I have an array of clients, from corporate clients to, you know, construction, events, weddings, etc. Weddings is actually where I started, but now I'm doing more corporate stuff. I think once you've done weddings for a long time, you kind of don't want to do it as much. Usually, of course. I'm not saying that's always the case. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed that, guys. And I will be posting more video tutorials and more film and video related things on my channel from this point on. We'll see as well how this one performs, and we take it from there. Thank you very much. Have a good day. And I hope you, after this, you're well on your way to having a good understanding on editing as a beginner. Thank you very much.